What's up, everyone? I'm JB, and this is my first time actually sitting down and hitting record and talking directly to you like this. If I'm being honest, I've gone back and forth for a very long time on whether I actually wanted to post Pokémon TCG content. You see, it's been a conversation in my head for months. Honestly, maybe even longer than that, maybe a year. It wasn't because I don't enjoy this hobby. I really do. I live and breathe this stuff. And it wasn't because I don't have thoughts on it. If you ask my friends or family, they're going to tell you I have way too many thoughts on Pokemon cards. No, the hesitation came from a deeper place. I didn't want to show up on this platform pretending to be something I'm not. You see, I run a small Pokemon TCG business called RetroGameTCG. And for a long time, I kept telling myself, I'll start posting when I feel more ready. But ready is a moving target in this hobby. And there's always another set coming out, another market shift, and another person with a better camera or a bigger collection. Part of that hesitation came from not knowing where I even fit in the Pokemon YouTube world. If you look at the landscape of this platform, there are a few very clear lanes. Now, you've got the guys opening hundreds of packs, screaming at the camera when they even see a hint of texture. And you have the competitive experts who can tell you exactly why a card is considered a 4 of in a tier 1 deck. And then you've got the investors talking about market caps and graded pops. I'm not the guy ripping through thousands of packs a week. I'm not a professional player breaking down tournament lists. And I'm definitely not trying to be the loudest voice in the room. I kept asking myself, does anyone even want the kind of content that I'd make? Does anyone want to hear about the systems, the organization, and the quiet reality of being a collector and a seller? Eventually, I realized that that question itself was the answer, because the people who do want this kind of content are probably the same people who feel a little out of place in the hobby sometimes. Those are exactly the people I want to talk to. So this video is me finally saying, all right, I'm diving in, but I'm going to do it my way. So let's get into some context. Like so many of you, I grew up with Pokemon. You see, I remember the schoolyard trades, the smell of base set packs, and that feeling of discovery that defined the late 90s. But then, like a lot of people, I drifted away. Life happened, career, family, adulting. Pokemon became a memory in a shoebox that I kind of just put up in the closet. When I came back to it as an adult, I was totally overwhelmed, and it was a very different world. The cards looked different, the market was on fire, and the sheer volume of information was just overwhelming. But what started as a simple desire to reconnect with my childhood slowly turned into a fascination with the collector's journey. You see, that curiosity eventually led me to selling cards, which birthed RetroGameTCG. RetroGameTCG didn't start as some grand business plan. It wasn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It started as a lot of the best things do. Sitting at a kitchen table, surrounded by a pile of cards, and me just thinking, God, there's got to be a better way to do this. I remember looking at a stack of thousands of bulk cards one day and genuinely just feeling anxiety. I thought, if I don't figure out a system for this, I'm literally going to drown in cardboard. Over time, my focus shifted. It became less about flipping cards and more about building the systems. I became obsessed with the logistics. So just like, how do I organize this so it doesn't feel like clutter? How do I price things in a way that's fair to the buyer and sustainable to me? How do I stay excited about a card I've seen at least 50 times? That's really what RetroGameTCG represents for me. It's not just a shop. It's an attempt to approach the hobby thoughtfully. Let me say, I'm not a pro player. I'm not chasing every hype card, but I am in this hobby every single day, from the collector side and the business side. I'm interested in the why behind the what. I'm interested in how we make decisions in a space that's designed to make us act on impulse. Here's the reason I wanted to start posting. A lot of Pokemon content out there is fantastic. Trust me, I watch it, I enjoy it, but let's be honest, it's loud, it's fast, and it's driven by the new set smell. It's also driven by the fear of missing out, or FOMO as some people call it. It's very good at telling you what you should be buying right now. But what I don't see as much of, and what I found myself searching for, is content that slows down, content that asks the questions that actually matter for the long-term health of our hobby. Questions like, why do we value certain cards the way that we do? Why does bulk feel worthless to some people, but it's the lifeblood of the game for others? Why do some collectors and sellers last for decades, while others burn out in 6 months? One thing I've noticed, especially on the selling side with RetroGameTCG, is how quickly people burn out. They jump in with both feet, they spend a fortune on the latest hot set, they underprice their labor, and suddenly the hobby starts feeling like a burden. It starts feeling like a second job that they absolutely hate. I don't think that's because Pokemon is broken. I think that's because no one really talks about pacing. No one talks about boundaries. No one talks about the fact that you don't have to participate in every release to be a real collector. That's the conversation I want to have here. I'm way more interested in the thinking behind the hobby than just the end result. I want to talk about how to build a collection or a business that you can actually live with for years to come. Another thing I want to be very clear about from day one, I'm still learning. I think this unspoken rule on YouTube that if you're behind a camera, you have to be an expert. You have to have all the answers. You have to sound confident 100% of the time. If you're looking for that, you're in the wrong place. I'm still learning deck building. I'm probably a terrible player right now compared to the average person at a regional. I'm still learning which cards move consistently versus which ones are just a flash in the pan. I'm still learning and how to balance the joy of Pokemon with the reality of running a business and a family. Instead of hiding that, I want this channel to lean into it. I want to learn out loud. I think there's a lot of pressure in this space to never admit you're figuring it out. People think that saying, I don't know, makes you less credible. But I actually think it's the opposite. Some of the best decisions I've ever made with RetroGameTCG came after I admitted that the current way of doing things just wasn't working. I had to throw out entire systems and rethink them from the ground up. And that process, the messy middle, is where real growth happens. This channel isn't about being right all the time. It's about being honest about the process. If I make a mistake in my pricing or my organization, I'm going to tell you about it, in the hopes that maybe you don't have to make that same one. So let me set some expectations early because I value your time and I want you to know what you're signing up for. This channel will be mostly talking head videos like this one. I want this to feel like a conversation. It's going to be thoughtful breakdowns of my approach to collecting and selling. I'm going to show you the boring stuff that I actually find quite fascinating. Sorting, logistics, strategy. Those are things also that I'm going to show you. Now, practical advice based on my actual day-to-day experience in running RetroGameTCG. It's also going to have reflections on what's working in the hobby and what's not, and the why behind it all. And let's be equally clear about what this won't be. This is not going to be constant pack ripping. If I open thousands, any packs, it's going to be a very specific reason. There are plenty of channels that open up packs. Clickbait titles and thumbnails. I definitely don't have any interest in that. There's going to be no red arrows, no, oh my God, you won't believe this face. I want the people who find this channel to find it because they care about the content, not because they were tricked by an algorithm. I'm not going to pretend I have insider knowledge. I don't have a source at Pokemon HQ. I'm just a guy with a lot of cards and a set of systems. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to help you think more clearly about a hobby you already enjoy. For me, Pokemon works best when it's something I can come back to for peace and focus, not something that drains my bank account and my mental health. I want this channel to feel like that too. I want this to be the kind of video that you can put on while you're sorting your own cards, or while you're driving, or just when you need to slow down. If that sounds boring to some people, that's totally fair. There are plenty of high energy channels for them, but if you like calm, thoughtful Pokemon content, you're in the right place. So why start now? Honestly, it just feels like the right time. I've spent enough time watching from the sidelines. I've spent enough time second guessing my voice and telling myself I need a better microphone or a better background. At some point, waiting stops being preparation and just starts being avoidance. I realized that if I waited until I felt like an expert, I would never hit record. I don't need perfect lighting. I don't need to be the most successful seller on the planet. I just need to show up consistently and speak honestly. That's what I'm committing to here. As JB and as RetroGameTCG, I'm tired of the noise, and I suspect a lot of you are too. I think we're all looking for a version of this hobby that feels a bit more sustainable and a bit more human. This channel is for the collectors who are tired of being told they have to buy every set to be relevant. It's for the sellers who want to build something that lasts rather than burning out in a month, chasing market spikes. And it's for the players who, like me, are still figuring out the difference between a good card and a good deck. And really, it's for anyone who likes Pokemon and enjoys thinking a little deeper about it. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the hobby, or confused by the market, or if you've ever sat at your desk looking at your cards and wondering if you're doing it right, I want you to know you're not alone and you don't need to have it all figured out to belong here. This channel isn't about arriving at a destination. It's about the journey. I don't know exactly what RetroGameTCG on YouTube will look like 6 months to a year from now, and I'm okay with that. If you stick around, you're going to see it all. The wins, the mistakes, the shifts in perspective. There's something powerful about learning alongside other people who care about the hobby in a grounded and intentional way. Before I wrap this up, I have a favor to ask. If you found this video helpful, if the slowed down approach resonates with you, feel free to hit like. If you didn't like it, or if you think I'm overthinking things, that's okay too. Hit dislike. I genuinely welcome conversations and a different perspective. That's how we actually make the Pokemon community better. By taking perspective, talking through things, and talking through what works and what doesn't. And if you want to stick around and see where this thing goes, you're more than welcome to subscribe. No pressure. I'm just glad you spent the few minutes here with me. So yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm JB, this is RetroGameTCG, and this channel is about learning, thinking, and building something that actually lasts. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.